Well, friends, it is time to talk about Tales of the Underworld. Tales of the Underworld is not what I thought it was going to be. It's just not at all what I expected. Welcome back in, everybody. Hello, it's me, Amanda. I am here today to talk to you about Tales of the Underworld. I know it's been a few weeks. I watched it a few weeks ago, but a lot's been going on. And I just love talking about so many different nerdy things, so I'm finally here to talk to you about this show and talk to you about my feelings about it. So when it comes to Tales of the Underworld, I think I kind of just want to start off with the first story. To give you a little synopsis of, I guess, what the show is about, we're following two characters, which I knew when I watched the trailer who we were going to kind of be following in it. It's Asajj Ventress, which I know, wait, isn't Asajj Ventress dead? Well, no, she's not. This was a thing that I think was also touched on in Bad Batch with her character. And so Asajj Ventress is back, and we kind of follow an adventure after she comes back to life. And then Cad Bane is kind of the Cad Bane origin story is what we're following with that. Now with Asajj Ventress, I think her story was really the one that I loved more, to be honest with you, but I think both of these stories have some really good elements to them. When it comes to Asajj Ventress, what I really loved is I kind of loved this idea of exploring what everything is like after the events of the Clone Wars and what happens to the world when, you know, the war is perceived to be kind of over. We get to examine some of these really interesting themes about how war can kind of just take over a person and you can lose your identity in it. Ventress at one point ends up teaming up with this young Jedi who's lost and who's trying to reconnect with the other surviving Jedi after Order 66. His name's Lyko. And during their journey together, they end up finding these settlers who are on the outskirts. They just need water. They're very desperate. It's a grandfather and his granddaughter, and they're having problems where every time they go to get water, they get attacked. And we learn that basically what's happening is the natives there do not like the fact that these people are coming in and sort of muscling in on their water. And it's just, really, it's a miscommunication issue. These two sides decided to start fighting each other, the grandfather and the beings that are already established on the planet and in this area. And ultimately, Lyko is able to kind of act, well, I mean, as a Jedi, and understanding the natives, he's able to facilitate a conversation where they can come to some kind of agreement where they can maybe share the water, which it's really beautiful. And there's this moment when they return, and they return with these native beings to the grandfather, and Ventress takes his gun from him. He's holding his gun and he's ready to fight these foes because that's how he sees them. And she kind of just has to remind him, like, you don't have to fight. Like, we can find another way. And people have already died and people have already lost things. And so can't we just move on, you know? How do we move forward? How do we heal after everything we've been through and all the trauma that we've carried from war? And this idea as well of kind of redemption in terms of Ventress's journey, because, you know, Ventress is a character who has done a lot of bad things, but near the end of her life, she does have this redemption arc. She ends up falling in love with Quinlan Vos and sacrifices herself in the end. And now I think some people might feel a bit weird about her coming back and continuing that story when it's so complete. But I actually think there's so much you can explore, because it's what happens when you are redeemed and then where do you go from there, you know? We kind of get to continue with her journey. And I do wonder if there's a chance that she can reconnect with Quinlan Vos. I'm not fully clear on like his whole path and like where everywhere that he goes in terms of his story and how it all plays out. But I love the fact that she also decides ultimately, once she kind of knows where he is, she has this chance to maybe go see him. And she decides not to. And what's even cuter is that she makes a friend with Lyko, and Lyko decides to also not go to the Jedi and stay behind and be with Ventress. So we get this promise of kind of these two people that are from two very different worlds working together to maybe try and, I don't know, maybe make the world a better place and find out what their place is in this new world post everything that has happened together. And I just thought it was a really beautiful little story. One thing I will say is that it wasn't entirely perfect for me because there was something that it kind of just left me wanting more of a certain element, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the review. I'm going to get into that because it kind of applies to the whole series, I think. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Before we get into that, let's talk about Cad Bane. So Cad Bane, he also has 3 episodes. It's basically a 6-episode series, Tales of the Underworld, one of the Tales series, which I need to go watch the other ones, actually. But Cad Bane's story, his is also 3 episodes, and it's basically his origin. So we follow him from growing up kind of in the slums, an orphan, and find out how he got just completely immersed in this criminal underbelly, this world where he grows up to become a criminal. And the tragedy of his origin is that his friend, Nero, from when he was younger, back when he was known as Colby, ends up becoming a law enforcer. So they're like on 2 opposite spectrums. And just everything that happens to Cad Bane is so freaking tragic. And it's so dramatic. And it's so Cad Bane. But I love that it's just this tragic story where everything could have basically been avoided and it just wasn't, because these characters were on these trajectories and it was like they were doomed almost from the start. There's no way of getting around it. You think to yourself, what if these people had just talked to each other? What if Cad Bane's love had just told him, you know, I'm gonna have a baby? It probably would have changed everything. But none of that happens. So and you know where it ends up. You know where Cad Bane ends up. So you just are like staring down the barrel of a potentially what could have been a nice story that you know has to end tragically. It's just heartbreaking, and I kind of love that about it. It's like, no wonder Cad Bane's such a bad guy. He is just completely blinded by revenge in this. He basically gets in with these other criminals, him and Nero. Nero gets caught, Colby gets away. Colby ends up sort of taking on the role of leader over time with this group, and the person that he is clearly emulating and clearly admiring is the guy that was there before him that ruled everything, who when he is gone, that's when Cad Bane really becomes Cad Bane, and he has the hat and he has the whole look. It's crazy. And then he decides, I need to go back to like settle a score. And Nero is now, you know, kind of guarding this place. He is working on the side of the law and he's trying to make it better. And he doesn't want to hold it against Colby, against Cad, that he is a villain now, that he is a criminal, because he believes, I think, still in that part of Colby that he knew when he was younger. And he wants to show him, I think, a better way, but they just can't see eye to eye. And in the end, what ends up happening is Cad Bane does get taken in, he gets arrested, and then now he has to come back and settle a score with Nero. But what he doesn't know is that the woman that he left behind, who I believe is the daughter of the man who was running everything before, who's with Cad, who they're in a relationship it seems, she's pregnant. She never gets to tell him this, so he's locked up, and when he finally gets out, he comes back, and he's here to get revenge on Nero, but what he doesn't know is that Nero has been taking care of this woman, taking care of Cad's son and raising him like his own, which I mean is a whole other thing. Although Nero had great intentions, you got to imagine that Colby's gonna be thinking, you just like stole my son. But he also doesn't even know that this is his son. And it ends up with a showdown with the two of them, a shootout, and Cad Bane's son sees it all. Nero's son really sees it all and sees Cad Bane kill his dad, Nero. It's tragic, but it's like it can't be avoided because we're just on this path now where no one knows anything, and so of course it's gonna go awry. Also, killing your like childhood best friend is pretty rough. So it's just, you get to see the reason why Cad Bane is such a baddie, destined to be one of the baddest of the bad. And it just gives you a little bit of more context in terms of his character, which I really liked. It really made him, despite being despicable sometimes, he's just, you understand why he is the way he is. You kind of sympathize with him, even though he made a lot of choices that put him in that place, so he kind of did it to himself. But that makes it even more sad, because you got to think about, at the end of the day, is there a part of Cad Bane that knows that everything that's happened is kind of like because of him? Like all the stuff that he went through here is because of himself? Probably. Now, it is Corey Burton voicing Cad Bane here, but his voice is a little weird in this because we got to see Cad Bane when he's Colby, when he's a kid. And when he's a kid, he has like a kid voice, but it's still kind of Cad Bane, so it just sounds kind of weird. And then as he gets older, he kind of grows into his voice. So by the end of the the episodes, by the 3rd episode, he's like fully Cad Bane. But the journey we take to get there, it does feel a little weird, but it is just him getting older. So I kind of got over it because I just realized, like, you know, that's just how voices work. Our voices change as we get older, as we mature, our voices deepen, all of those things are happening. For some reason, I was reading the IGN review and they were like really picky about this. And they were like, you know, there's a reason, but I'm not gonna like explain the reason. And I went back to be like, did I miss something? Is there some incident that happened, or is it just that he gets older? I'm pretty sure it's just that he gets older, which is how voices work. So I don't know why they were like, not enough of a satisfactory answer to me. I was like, well, he's just got a weird voice. I think he's just got a weird voice because of his life. He's seen a lot of stuff, clearly. Also, who's to say how voices really develop? They're an influence of so many things. To really get into why someone sounds like the way they sound, you gotta go like all the way through their history, and then little bit by bit, little things influence us, and that's how you get your voice, how you sound, your dialect. It's regional, it has to do with your own experiences in life, it's so personal. And I love that Cad Bane's voice is so unique. So I love that we kind of got into a little bit, but we didn't make it like some whole like, here's the reason why. But I guess people at IGN, maybe some of those people, they want like, this is the reason why for real. some thing that happened to him. And also, before I continue on here, because I want to talk about now the series overall, now that we've kind of talked about both of these parts, some of the things that I observed about it, and some things that I really enjoyed and that I think are the strongest elements of the show, to be honest with you. Before we get into that, I just wanted to say, heads up, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I have not finished Clone Wars. So if there are things that I'm talking about here or something doesn't make sense in relation to that, know that I've started Clone Wars, but I never finished Clone Wars. I could not get past the animation style, guys, and I know that I need to go back because I have heard from all of the Star Wars folks and fans out there that Clone Wars is one of the best. You just really gotta commit to it. You gotta get through it. So I need to go back. Maybe I'll do that. I've been thinking about doing more reactions and things to shows, to anime, and various shows. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anime. It could be Clone Wars. It could be anything. Over on my Patreon. So if that is something you're interested in, let me know down in the comments below, and let me know, you know, what are maybe some things that you've noticed from Clone Wars that you really enjoyed, because I do think there's probably a lot there for people that love Clone Wars as well. But yeah, let me know that down in the comments, and if you want to check out my Patreon, feel free to check it out at patreon.com/vampex13. So before we kind of wrap this up, a very important point. I saved the best part for last. I know that's contrary to what you're supposed to do with videos to keep people watching, but best part for last. Music. The music in this show is amazing. The music instantly hit me, and I just thought it was so standout. And another reason for me to go back and watch Clone Wars, guys, because the people that are doing the music for this are also attached to some other very key Star Wars projects like Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Rebels, all the Tales stuff, I think, and Ahsoka. And that, of course, is Kevin Kiner, Sean Kiner, and Deanna Kiner, who are basically a family of composers. Kevin is the one that's usually at the head of everything, and now his kids have basically come in, and they also kind of compose as well with him, which I think is super cute, can I just say? But aside from the fact that the whole dynamic of that is adorable, the music is also just so freaking good. And I love that there is also now like a bit of a legacy with this music, that we have other composers from the family coming in that are going to be continuing that legacy, even probably after Kevin is gone. And the music is so strong. It's so emotional. It's really just a standout soundtrack. I want to listen to it like on a loop. That's how good this music is. One thing that I really feel that some people seem to disagree with when I've been reading some of these reviews, but I think they did a good job of it, is I feel like these episodes are so tiny and so short, and what they really did well is they packed a lot into them. The voice acting is so good, the music is so good, there are these moments of action, and really, even though you're watching like a 15-minute episode, it really feels like a 30 to 40-minute episode in terms of everything that happened and how big the world is and how big the performances are. I just feel like everything is done to such a heightened level that it really makes you feel like 15 minutes is not even what you watched. It just feels like it had to have been so much more, because so much more happened in your mind. But that being said, it's not like I feel like it's taking forever to watch them. They zoom right by because they are short, but there's just a lot in them, I feel. Now, some people feel like they're not long enough and that actually takes away from the story, but I think you could make them longer, but they really just made them efficient the way that they're structured, so that each episode, it doesn't feel like it's a lot of filler. It feels like it's just there to focus right on the characters, focus in right on the story that they're telling, and get in and get out, leaving you wanting more, to be honest. I want more tales. I'm very excited to go back and watch the other tales now, and hopefully we get some more. I'd love, let me know what you want in the comments, but I'd love Tales of the Sith. I'd love Mandalorians. I'd love some droids, honestly. Tales of the Droids. I never feel like we talk about droids enough, but you know me, I'm a big droid nerd. I just love droids in the Star Wars universe. So what are my issues with the show? Well, I only really have one issue, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like a small issue, and the more I think about it, the more I'm like, do I even say it? But I'm just gonna say it. Tales of the Underworld. Underworld. I feel like there's not enough Underworld in this, and I know we kind of get into it a little bit more with Cad Bane, but because it's really just based on the characters, which I do think is how Tales works, it's really character focused, but we don't really get into the world of the Underworld. Like, it's not like this seedy underbelly. There's a little bit of it with Cad Bane because that is where he comes from, but we still don't explore, what they're up to a lot, who they're stealing from and any beef that they have and any of the actual crime. It's just alluded to. And, we see the one kind of robbery that gets Cad Bane into it at the beginning and gets Nero caught. So there's that. And with Asajj Ventress, we really don't get into it that much. Although I guess you could say that Ventress trying to get Lyco to the Jedi, that's kind of underworldy, because the Jedi, even though they're good guys, they are operating in a way where it's like, if they get caught, like, they'd be in so much trouble. So it is kind of still an illegal thing, but like on a different, like a completely different lens than what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be more grimy and more like skullduggery and more like smugglers even. Although I guess I should have known when it was Ventress and Cad Bane, like, smuggling, probably not. Maybe we just need Tales of the Smugglers. Could we have that? That could be a thing. Anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I think overall, I would give Tales of the Underworld an 8 out of 10. It really was quite solid. I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that maybe it's missing is just, maybe a little bit more Underworld. Maybe like a tiny bit more world building, because although the world is there and it feels rich, I just feel like we don't explore it as much. And maybe that is where, having a bit of a longer episode could be helpful. But I don't know. I don't think they really need to do that. I think it's just how much it's integrated into the story. And because we're really just focusing on these characters and not as much the world around them, the world is just kind of there to facilitate the story, as opposed to us really exploring that element of it. So I think there is a little bit of room for improvement. But I will say the animation is also amazing in this, so I had to give it a good score for that, which is crazy because it is also very kind of like Clone Wars style. But man, I wish Clone Wars looked like this, because this animation it's peak. It's so good. And that's my thoughts on Tales of the Underworld. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you like it? Why not? And let me know, what other tales you guys want to see. And if there's other Star Wars stuff you'd like me to check out, or, hey, Clone Wars, should we do that thing? I think maybe we should do that thing. I'll see you next time, and until then, friends, stay nerdy. Bye! Also, check out this other Star Wars thing. Yeah, sometimes I talk about Star Wars.